So we're here with Scott Drab, and Scott has as you'll see in a few minutes, a wonderful selection of Jaguars in honor of this year's Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix Marque of the Year, which is Jaguar. Scott's allowed us to come out and drool, I think is maybe the appropriate word, at his garage here just outside of Pittsburgh. So Scott, please introduce yourself, and then let's look at a little bit about your collection.
Okay, well, Bernie, thank you for coming out. I appreciate it very much. Appreciate it very much. So, my name is Scott Drab, and I've been a Jaguar aficionado for, oh my gosh, a number of years. In fact, it's interesting, when I got started, my mom reminded me that where I all got started was actually right there on that wall over there. It's a Matchbox car, and it was my favorite car, and when I went to look and see what that car was, it was a Jaguar. It was a Mark 10, so it goes all the way back to when I was playing with Matchbox cars. So, but welcome to my garage. Thank you so much for coming out. What a great honor it is to be part of your program.
When did you start? What was your first car in the collection?
Believe it or not, the first car that I obtained was a Alfa Romeo Spider, so it wasn't even a Jaguar. At that time, I was right out of college. I wanted something that was sporty. I couldn't really afford a Jaguar at the time, but I knew I wanted something that was a convertible. I wanted something that was red. I wanted something that sort of resembled, a Jaguar, but also, wanted it to be something that I could afford. So it was an Alfa Romeo. But then I really got back into the Jaguar scene in the 90s, and that's when I really started the collection of Jaguars that you see here today.
So the first in the collection?
The first in the collection is this car over here, which was is a 96 XJS convertible. And that was the first one that started it all from there.
Excellent. Where we're going to start, I think, is talking a little bit about the engine technology, which there's been a bit of an evolution of that, but there's some things within Jaguar that started at the beginning and stayed with them for a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's why all the bonnets are up here, that we're going to take a peek at the engines first.
Sure, well, let's do that. So, thinking about engines, one of the things that you have to understand about Jaguar is prior to Jaguar being Jaguar, it was actually SS motors and SS cars. And so what happened is they started... Swallow sidecar. It's never really been confirmed exactly what SS stood for. Some think it is swallow sidecar, some think it is standard sidecar. There's a lot of different... William Lyons, who was actually in charge of Jaguar, never really said what it actually stood for. But what happened is during the war, obviously the connotation of SS became sort of negative. And so what they did was, at the time, they had a car called the SS Jaguar. And so the name switched over to Jaguar. But interestingly, during the war, one of the things that happened was in England, they had fire watches. And you developed a fire watch team for incendiary bombs being dropped on the factory and things like that. Well, Bill Lyons, who was really the owner and the creator of Jaguar, chose his fire team watch very, very carefully. So it included his chief engineer and designers and what have you. And so during fire watches, they would discuss what type of engine that they really wanted to have post-war. And so one of the things that Bill Lyons was always very concerned about was the looks of the engine. He wanted the engine to look spectacular. And so they started thinking about overhead cams. They were thinking about power. And so really what they came to develop was the XK engine. And this is the example of the XK engine, one of the first XK engines. The XK engine came out in '48, but what's interesting is when
Straight six.
Straight six, yeah. A lot of people look at this engine and think that it's a V, but it's the overhead cams that give it that look of a V. But what happened is the engine itself, in thinking about the creation of the engine, they wanted it to be powerful, they wanted it to have the looks of something being spectacular. This engine started in '48, and they had the engine developed, and they were developing it for the large saloon car, which they didn't have ready yet for the show. So what happened was, Bill Lyons said, all right, let's take this engine, let's create a quick sports car design, and we'll put this in the sports car, and we'll show it at the motor show. And so really, the whole XK120 car was designed in a matter of weeks, penned by Bill Lyons, to accept this engine. And they showed it at the motor show, and it was a huge success, Bernie. What happened was people clamored over this because this was something that was new, it was different. Remember, most post-war motor cars looked like the pre-war motor cars. So if you look at Bentley and you look at Rolls, a lot of those cars post-war were very similar to what was derived and what was created pre-war. This was different. And so people just clamored over it, and what ended up happening was, you know, they really hadn't planned on selling this car, so they quickly tooled up to make the 120, put the XK engine in it, and sell it as a sports car.
So then this engine, so the engine came first.
Yeah.
In the chicken egg discussion, the engine came first,
Yes.
which set the standard. Now, can you show us kind of where this engine evolved from within your collection? You've got.
Yeah, I can show you that. Let me just say one thing
Yeah.
about this engine, which I think is unique, is that in 1953, with this engine, the XK120 was the fastest production sports car. Production, you know, which means that it wasn't a one-on, but the fastest standard production sports car in the world. In fact, you'll see, and I'll show you some of the advertisements for this car, but they were able to take a modified version of this car and take it to 172 miles per hour on the Jakobic Strait. So it was, you know, they had the front changed a little bit, they had a bubble on the top of the car, and Norman Dewis was the test driver for Jaguar. They didn't even have a seat in there. He sat on a wooden board. So imagine sitting on a wooden board with a locked bubble top on top of you, traveling 172 miles an hour in 1950. That's amazing when you stop and think about it. But let me show you how this engine has transgressed throughout the years, because all they really did, when you look at the E-Type model, when you look at the Mark II, what they've done in those particular cars is they've really changed the displacement. So they went from a 3.4 liter to a 4.2. In the Mark IIs, they used 3.4 engines and 3.8 engines. And walk with me this way for just a moment. I want to show you a 1987 Vandenplow. So 1987.
So wait, it's a what is it? A 1987
Vandenplow, Jaguar Vandenplow. This was the upgraded model from the XJ6. They called it a Vandenplow. But if you look at this engine, Bernie, what you will see is this is the basic XK engine from the 1940s. So you can still make out the straight six. The cams are now ridged and grooved, but it's still the same basic XK engine that actually ran all the way from the 40s into the late 80s and early 90s for Jaguar. That's how long this engine lasted.
And you've got some other things with the bonnet up here. So.
Yeah, so the second engine that Jaguar produced was a 12-cylinder engine. And they produced the 12-cylinder engine in the 70s. And so, again, very similar to what they did in the 50s. They said, let's take this 12-cylinder engine and let's put it into a sports car and introduce it first in the sports car prior to the saloon. And so that's what they did here with the third series generation E-Type. So this particular car is a 74 E-Type, and it has the 12-cylinder engine in it. And this engine ran all the way up into the 90s. And if you look at this car, Bernie, over here, this is a 92 XJS, and it has the same basic 5.3 liter V12 engine that car has in it. So again, it's sort of, very compact and shoehorned in there, but it's the same basic engine.
Excellent.
Then what happened was Jaguar said, all right, we've got two engines. We've got the XK and we've got the 12-cylinder. But the economy of the 12-cylinder, obviously in the late 70s, early 80s, with gas prices going up, a lot of people were very hesitant on the 12-cylinder engine. So Jaguar knew this, and they said, listen, we need to develop our own brand new engine again. And so what they did at that particular point was they came out with this particular variant that you see in this 96 XJS. Now this is an AJ16 engine, but prior to this engine was an AJ6. And they're very, very similar, the AJ6 and the AJ16. It's a 6-cylinder engine. It's Jaguar's third basic engine design over the years. So this came basically after the 12-cylinder. And then after that, when Ford owned Jaguar, they came out with their own 6-cylinder, which was the AJ-V6, and then they also came out with their first 8-cylinder engine, which was the AJ-V8. And you can see the AJ-V8 in this particular car here, which is a 2003 XKR. This is the supercharged version. So this is a 400 horsepower supercharged version of the AJ-V8 engine. Of course, today, Jaguar has a lot of different engines now that Tata owns them. Diesel engines, 6-cylinder engines, 4-cylinder engines, all part of the Ingenium development program with Jaguar. So there's really been quite a unique development of engines. But if you look at most of the years Jaguar had been around, the XK engine, the 12-cylinder, and the AJ616, the V8s and the V6s were their primary engines. So not a lot, but now they do have a lot.